Hey, it's Cheshire from Cheshire Plays Games, and today I've got a great commander deck for you. It's Jhoira Weatherlight Captain. Now, when Jhoira was first spoiled, I was one of the first people excited, just so energetic to make a deck from this. For Standard. And I know, I was just hoping that she'd actually captain a really cool Artifact Storm deck in Standard. Unfortunately, she didn't really have the tools at the time to show that full potential that we wanted to see. I mean, Paradoxical Outcomes is just a little bit better with the Aetherflux Reservoir. So, what I've been doing is I've been tinkering with an EDH deck that's gross. It's not my usual style of fun casual deck. This is a very serious 4-player deck. And it goes against some of my principles like land destruction. But we'll get to that. So I hope that you enjoy this deck tech. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So first up, the captain of this ship is of course Jhoira Weatherlight Captain. She is a legendary human artificer for 2 colors, 1 red and 1 blue for a 3/3. When you play a historic spell, you can draw a card. Sounds like the perfect captain for an Artifact Storm deck. She can weather the storm. You get it? It's hilarious because it's funny. So what we're looking at first is ways to reduce our artifact's converted mana cost so that we can draw cards for free or at least near free. This means we can be free to mess with lands in other disgusting gross ways. So, mana reducers. First up we have Helm of Awakening. For 2 mana we get an artifact that reduces all spells by 1 generic mana. This means your opponents as well, so be careful with that Helm of Awakening. Next up we have Ethereum Sculptor. Nothing like free mana on a stick, right? Ethereum Sculptor is an artifact creature Vidalcan Artificer for 1 generic and 1 blue mana with 1 power and 2 toughness. This little dude also reduces all of your artifact spells by 1 mana. Semblance Anvil. Semblance Anvil is a bit more on the edge of playable to me. At 5 generic mana you can imprint a card on it when it comes into play, and all spells you cast that share a type with that card then get reduced by 2 generic mana. Not one of my favourite artifacts as you actually lose a card to it, and if it gets destroyed then you just lost the artifact and a card, but it's still very, very good for reducing the cost of your artifacts. So just chuck something under that you might not need, or, you know, like a Sorcerer's Spyglass or something like that. Something that's not going to be overly impactful on your actual game. Next up is Foundry Inspector. So who would have thought there would have been so many ways to reduce mana costs of artifacts? This 3/2 artifact creature reduces all of your artifact casting costs by 1 generic mana. Then we have Cloud Key, which is fairly straightforward. However, it's a bit busted on MTG right now. You can only reduce the artifacts by 1 mana and not spells of the chosen type, which is fine because really you're just using it in this deck for artifacts anyway, so it doesn't matter that much. We also have a good old Eldrazi drone 2/4 Herald of Kozilek. This is 1 blue, 1 red and 1 colorless, and it reduces colorless spells by 1 generic mana, remembering that artifacts are colorless spells. They have no color. It's not that they're devoid, but they may as well be with how gross this deck is. So here in this deck, it just adds more free fuel to the fire for your artifact reduction mechanisms. Speaking of, our last one is Jhoira's Familiar. This little owl is a bit expensive at 4 mana, but it also reduces our historic spells, not just our artifacts, by 1 generic mana. It's pretty frail and a little too likely be an easy target for somebody to kill, but another mana reduction spell never hurt anyone. Combo kills, get wrecked son, get wrecked. The next thing about artifacts is that we can use several neat combos to kill our opponents. Some of these will deal damage to all opponents at the same time, others will be fairly slow and might actually just need to be taken out, which is the milling aspect, although that can be ramped up pretty easily with Howling Mind, but we'll get to that at the end. Aetherflux Reservoir and Paradoxical Outcome. Jhoira Captain of the Weatherlight, along with our mana reducers, is fairly good. We get to draw basically free artifacts most of the time, and we keep cycling through our deck. But to add an extra level of spice to this deck for a combo is Paradoxical Outcome. Paradoxical Outcome is an instant for 3 generic and 1 blue mana that allows us to bounce back any non-land permanents to our hand and then draw a card for each that we decide to take back. What we should have then done is taken back enough artifacts that we can replay them for free and draw a stack of cards from our captain. This leads to more draws, more replays, so we can eventually just kill everyone at the table at once by using our Aetherflux Reservoir. Also as bounce we have Retract, an instant for a single blue that returns all artifacts you control to their owner's hands. And adding to that as well, we also have Rebuild. For 2 generic mana and 1 blue, we can return all artifacts to their owner's hands. Firebrand Archer and Reckless Fireweaver. Speaking of going off, Firebrand Archer deals 1 damage to each opponent when you play a non-creature spell. On the other side of that, Reckless Fireweaver deals 1 damage to each opponent every time an artifact enters the battlefield under your control. What you're doing here is weaponizing each artifact that you play into a mini Gatling gun bullet. Paradox Engine. Well look, this is my favourite card, but I knew I'd have to talk about this eventually. So usually I don't think many single cards are busted in EDH on their own, and though there is a few, they get banned fairly quickly. So to my surprise, Paradox Engine isn't actually banned, even though it's extremely powerful. You may think it's not that busted by itself, and well, I guess it isn't, but as with anything that allows you to tap for mana and then have a way to untap everything that's not a land, you can get a pretty gross combo going with Paradox Engine. So Paradox Engine is a 5 mana artifact that untaps all of your non-land permanents every time you play a spell. So with Jhoira, you can tap down all of your mana rocks such as your Mana Vault, play an artifact, draw a card from Jhoira, untap all those beautiful mana rocks of yours, and you can go infinite with things like Sensei's Divining Top. So that is kinda gross. I don't know why Paradox Engine hasn't been deemed a really bad impact on Commander as a whole, but I'm kinda happy because I love the card itself. I think it's just so good. The worst side of control. Okay, well look, this is the part of the deck that actually wrecks me pretty badly. The control package is a little more dirty than what I like to have in my decks. But we do want to kill our opponents eventually, and to do that, we have to employ some less than nice tactics. First up we have Cyclonic Rift. Now, Rift isn't that bad, it's less disgusting. It's on the less disgusting scale of what we're about to talk about. Rift here will allow you to bounce all non-land permanents that you don't control for its overload cost. Words of Wind. Passing gas, Words of Wind allows us to turn card draw into bounce. We can get rid of those pesky, troublesome permanents such as Attrition, because Attrition is busted and I hate it, especially when we don't run a whole mess of creatures. It just means that your commander keeps getting killed over and over. It's not fun. Then again, I guess this deck isn't fun either, so who's on the good side of that? I'm not real sure. Next up, we've got Torpor Orb, which shuts down ETB effects on creatures such as Snapcaster Mage. And then we have Cursed Totem, which shuts down the worst of the worst, such as Hermit Druid, from wrecking your day. We also have a copy of Winter Orb. Anyone who's played the game for a long time probably knows of this card. Anyone who plays Commander will likely have seen this card around. It's not fun, but we're going to play it. So, want to keep your opponent's lands tapped down longer? Then Winter Orb is for you! Winter Orb will keep you on the road to losing all of your friends in no time at all. Bonus points if we can actually find a way to tap it down, because then we can untap our lands during our upkeep. There is particular ways of doing it. We're not running them really, other than obviously Paradox Engine. Rising Waters. When that water rises, it sure does soak the land, not unlike our Winter Orb. It's pretty much the same effect. Then add to the flood the Impending Disaster. If Disaster sticks around until your next upkeep, You lose all of your friends, destroy all their lands, all of them. Just got it in an instant, like Thanos clicking his fingers. Speaking of destroying lands, we've got Mana Vortex. Who needs lands? Am I right? At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices a land. Super gross, an underhanded card that makes me feel pretty gross playing it, but here we are, I guess. Now, we are playing Sphinx's Tutelage and Pwychic Corrosion as additional win cons. Now, I almost killed somebody with Pwychic Corrosion. I ended up just shooting them with Aetherflux Reservoir anyway. So, I don't know if we're going to really keep these in or whether we should remove them. More testing is required. I have played this deck now about 15 times, and I haven't dropped a game yet, which is actually pretty cool. I guess for me. Thanks, Chaotic, for sticking around during that game, where you sped up everything and I killed everyone and I went off pretty big with infinite combos. The thing to remember is that this deck is infinite combo land. This is a combo deck. I usually say, if you want to keep your friends, don't play the combo decks. If you want to keep your friends, don't destroy their lands. If you want to keep their friends, don't play the Winter Orb. But in this particular case, we are doing just that because this is a combo deck and that's what it's built around. Some people have asked me for a more competitive deck. Well, here you are. This one's pretty damn competitive. Well, that's it from me. I hope that you've really enjoyed this combo deck. Go and try it out if you can. It's pretty gross. Again, I've not really been dropping games with it. It's not my usual style of deck. It's extremely fun to play, which is gross because I'm enjoying it. Just go and try it out. Keep cracking packs, not for value, but for draft. This is Cheshire. Like and subscribe, because apparently you gotta say that, right? Apparently. Just hit that like button and share it with your friends.